Let it be known by the President of Wilmington City Council, all the members of City Council, the Law Director, and the Clerk of Council, that I do hereby veto the ordinance to abolish the positions of Assistant Police Chief, Code Enforcement Official / Engineer, Human Resources Director, Workplace Safety Coordinator, and Maintenance and Repair Superintendent.
Wilmington Mayor Randy Riley lived up to his promise Thursday. He had threatened to veto an ordinance that would eliminate 4 administrative positions. Thursday night, the ordinance passed by a 4-3 vote by City Council on its 3rd reading. Riley vetoed it immediately. Council President Scott Kirchner said that this isn't the only proposal out there, just the only one that's been presented to Council. He said that if the mayor has any ideas, he can bring them to Council.
When I hear that we haven't done anything, wrong. That's just not true. This administration has been working diligently for 7.5 months to balance the budget. There are over 8 pages of recommendations that were presented to this council a month ago.
Let me ask you something, folks. Do you know the difference between a proposal to council and working on something? I sat on this council since last July, and they've been working on it since last July. Our first deficit occurred 3 years ago. They've been working on it for 3 years. Now that's the difference. There is a difference. Watch your words, okay? It's time to quit working on it and do something. There's one proposal. There's something.
Excuse me, that didn't sound right.
Okay, it's time to quit. Okay, I'm saying, you're saying working on it.
Please do something.
I'm
Do something.
Do something.
working.
That's right. Give us a
We're doing
proposal.
things.
You're working on it.
We are doing things.
Where's the proposal, Mr.
I
Mayor?
just showed you that we have not spent any of the carryover this year. We are doing good work.
Mr. Mayor, let me.
After the meeting, Riley told the News Journal that he was actually surprised he had to end up vetoing the measure.
I thought that, having talked to several people, I thought that one of the 4 councilmen that has supported this in the first 2 readings might change their mind, particularly when I pointed out that we have not spent any carryover this year. In fact, we've increased the carryover by over $304,000. What we're doing in the city of Wilmington is working. Right now, we are not operating in a deficit. When I pointed that out, I thought that some of the councilmen who were really focusing on doing this to save money would change their mind. But that didn't happen.
Kirchner talked about possible next steps in the process.
Well, council will have to, the Judiciary Committee will have to review the veto, the reasons given, and determine whether or not they want to go for a veto override. I believe that takes a supermajority of council. I'll have to check with our law director to be sure. I'm not an attorney, so I'm just reading the legislation myself, the ORC. But I believe 5 votes would be what would be necessary to overcome a veto. I think based on tonight's council meeting, what we're really hoping is that if there are solutions that the mayor has, he brings them forward on paper with real numbers, with real requests to eliminate specific positions and structural reorganization to the city that can save the money. I don't know what council's wishes are. I'll have to check with the chair of the Judiciary Committee and talk to the law director.
I just don't understand that, because council writes legislation. Council is in charge of ordinances. I gave them over 8 pages of ideas and suggestions as part of the Blue Ribbon panel, over 8 pages, and yet council president can sit there and say that they haven't heard anything from the city. The city has come up with no suggestions. And I'm looking out in the audience at Dr. Stephen Stovall, who chaired the Blue Ribbon panel, and he's looking at me like, what? They didn't read it? Obviously, we made, I thought, some really good recommendations. And apparently, all of those fell on deaf ears, and I don't understand it. The councilmen that are upset have yet to come in my office and talk to me. I would love for them to come in and say, okay, let's look at what you recommended for the fire department, for the police department, for the landfill. And because there's recommendations for every department in the city. And not one of them has yet to come to me and say, let's move forward on this. Let's talk about this. I'm not just going to write legislation If it needs to be negotiated, of course it will be. But come and talk to me about it.
For more coverage, be sure and pick up a copy of the latest edition of the News Journal.